The doctrine of the Nicolaitans is still prevalent today in increasing measure. The early Nicolaitans were people who followed a certain man that the apostles had ordained to be an overseer of one of the groups of brethren. And this man became apostate when he started to say that certain practices of immorality were okay for Christians, and he himself didn't heed rebuke. We see this same doctrine today, that Jesus clearly stated in his letters that he hates. And this doctrine is that you can continue to sin and still have salvation. It's basically saying that if you try and turn from your adulterous, wicked lifestyle, that you are entering into works salvation. So the whole idea of grace only and no works is a Nicolaitan doctrine that Jesus hates. Because if you want to be saved, you have to walk in holiness that Jesus Christ provides you when you turn to him. You cannot continue to practice adultery. You cannot be like the wicked Nicolaitan Christians who live in sin yet think they're still saved. They say we'll just lose rewards only because once you're saved you can never lose your salvation. That's a Nicolaitan doctrine, dear friend. The Nicolaitans believed that you could live in adultery and other immoral practices and you were still okay before God as a Christian. They were Christian converts. They were people of the first generation of converts to the true gospel of Jesus. The apostles rebuked them sharply, but they wouldn't listen. Jesus hates the gospel of the Nicolaitans. I see it everywhere. I see Nicolaitan Christians on my wall every single day. They say, it's all by grace and not by works, lest any man should boast, and no man shall lose his salvation except rewards if they live in sin. Lie! They are Nicolaitan, filthy, perverted doctrine. Dear friend, Jesus requires utter holiness. He hates that doctrine. He hates it. He said he hates it in the Bible. And you go research who the Nicolaitans were and what they believed, and you'll see what I'm saying is true. Because the Nicolaitans believed that it was okay to practice immorality. Why? It's because they believe in the whole grace idea with no works. They say you can't lose your salvation just like they do today. You can lose your salvation because you don't have it to begin with. If you have faith until the end in Jesus and walk in salvation, then you will receive the gift of salvation, the crown of life at the end of your walk. Just like the apostles did. Just like Paul said, I crucify myself, my flesh daily, lest it should disqualify me from the prize of eternal life. Dear friend, the doctrine of the Nicolaitans is false. Every preacher who says you will enter heaven but just lose rewards because you sin is a Nicolaitan. Jesus hates that. He hates their doctrine. He said in the book of Revelation, I hate that doctrine. You go research that doctrine and you'll see that they condoned sin as Christians. The apostles rebuked them sharply, but they wouldn't listen, to their own destruction. Are you following the doctrine of the Nicolaitans today? All those preachers who say Ephesians, by grace you are saved, not of works, lest any man should boast, and people will not lose their salvation but just lose rewards if they live in adultery and wickedness? Do you believe that lie? The real truth is that we are saved by grace, and it's not by works of the law of Moses. It's by grace in Jesus Christ, and turning away from your wicked desires of your flesh and your adultery and your wicked, perverted, filthy mind. Turning away from that is not works, dear friend. That's part of being a follower of Christ. And these wicked Nicolaitans then say, but we don't believe it's a license to sin. They cover themselves, trying to make it seem okay that they are condoning sin. Because some people say, it's okay to go on in sin. as a lot of them are a little bit conservative because they don't want to be seen as an outright devil. But you see, friends, when you walk in the grace of Jesus, when He has transformed your heart, then you will be crucifying your flesh daily. You will be following the Spirit. And you'll be proving that you're a child of God. You need to prove you're a child of God. Because in the end, everybody who wasn't a child of God won't be walking this righteous path. They won't make their election sure, as the scriptures say. Strive to make your election sure and your calling true. Only Jesus ultimately knows what ground your heart ends up. And it could well be just the dead ground. It could well be you are a bad fish and a goat, and in your heart ultimately, I don't know. Jesus knows that. But while we're on this earth, we have every chance to stop being a goat and a bad ground and a bad fish. And instead, we have every chance to have a transformation in our heart by faith and heeding this truth that I tell you today, and turning away from the doctrine of the Nicolaitans. Jesus bless you.